everybody, and welcome to the Tuesday Night Live. So, as you can see by the title, we're going to be doing some JK Ultra lore tonight. I saw someone put that in the comments last week when I talked about some of my personal experiences. Someone was like, "Ooh, I love it. We unlocked new JK Ultra lore." And I was like, "That's hilarious. Say no more." So this week I have so much stuff going on. So luckily everybody really enjoyed some of my personal stories. So I'm going to be sharing that again this week. Why I'm too busy to compile a nice spiritual self-help little thing for us this week. So one of the other things that I'm working on is my ex-boyfriend is visiting. He's in town with his wife and they're filming for their YouTube show. And in a weird way, because my ex is such a big part of my life, I kind of feel like people just know. But obviously, how would anyone know? So some of you guys might have seen that I posted last week on Instagram and TikTok. It got deleted from TikTok. It said that I violated guidelines, maybe because Joe Rogan is on Spotify and they have like the copyright thing. I don't know exactly why it was removed from TikTok. But those of you who watched that, if you watched the Joe Rogan episode with Jim Norton, he talked about his ex-girlfriend, Jen, who's an expert in timelines and multiverse and aliens and abductions and all of this stuff. So Jim is the biggest skeptic in my life, like the biggest skeptic. I told Jim 15 years ago about my alien UFO story. He says that he believes that I believe it. But yet, in the actually probably about 17 years that I've known him, he cannot recall one time that I've ever lied to him, which is why he cannot say that I'm lying about my UFO experience. It's because he does not believe in aliens. He doesn't believe that they come here. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that, a little bit about my past with my personal life. So if you guys don't know who Jim is, he's a comedian. And he's married to a woman, transgender woman named Nikki. And I don't know if you guys have seen, I've posted them a couple times. And also I'm going to be like, I've been hanging out with them a lot, doing stuff for their YouTube show. So I'll post that when that comes up. But I wanted to, first off, let me see if I have a picture. Yes, I do. So this is me and Jim back in the day. A lot of people, when I posted about that Rogan video. Oh, hi, Emma. Thank you for the super chat. So when I posted about him, I got the weirdest mix of feedback because a bunch of guys know who he is. And like the guy followers that I have, which is way less than the female followers, a lot of the guy followers are like, "What? You're Jim's ex? You're that Jen that he talks about?" And then a lot of people also were commenting like kind of like the age difference and what is the time frame of this. People are like, "Wait, what? How old are you? How did you date this person 15 years ago? This is not adding up." So I'm 35 and Jim and I dated when I was 20 years old. So this was really actually 15 years ago. It's not an exaggeration. And what's cool is I also, let me see, I took a couple of notes of like fun things to bring up from my time of dating Jim. So I'm going to tell you guys a couple of cool stories. One is when I met Robin Williams. So because Jim's a comedian, I was able to meet a lot of other comedians during my time dating him. And this was, I was 20 years old and, so I didn't have too much to say to a group of like, you'll be like with a group of legend comedians, I wasn't saying very much in these experiences, but I do want to tell you guys about when I met Robin Williams. Unlike Mother God, I met Robin Williams in the physical. Oh, thank you for the super chat again, Emma, and also Adriana. Good to see you guys here. So the day that I met Robin Williams, I don't know, it must have been like 2009 or something like that, maybe 2010. And so I used to go to the Comedy Cellar with Jim all the time because he would perform every night. So there's kind of like a comedian's table, and I would sit at the comedian's table while I waited for him. But then occasionally there would be like legends that come in. Everyone that comes in is great, but occasionally you get the greatest greats. And Robin Williams is someone that to me is like Mrs. Doubtfire is one of my favorite movies of all time. I love Robin Williams. He's just someone who was such a big part of my childhood. He's one of the, like the few celebrities that like I really loved like that. So when I was sitting there at the Comedy Cellar, it was kind of a little bit more empty. And then Robin came and all the comedians flocked to the table and everyone was like cramming in. It was everybody, and everybody was trying to get in a joke. It was trying to be funny in front of Robin. And it's like everybody, like all these different comedians, everyone's like, from my point of view of a nobody, was kind of like, oh my God, this is a little bit cringe that everybody is trying so hard to get Robin's attention and make him laugh. And this is why Robin Williams is the sweetest soul ever. Because when that was like kind of all chaos, everyone's like, Robin, I'm funny, hey, and everyone's like trying to do that. And I'm just sitting there like kind of at the table. First of all, I'm younger than most of the people there. And also I'm not a comedian. So I was like, just sitting there kind of processing like, oh my God, this fucking Robin Williams. Because I usually don't care. I've met so many celebrities and I don't know why I get excited sometimes, but like I was with that. I was so excited. And then what an angel Robin is, because he looked at me, saw everybody like trying to get his attention. And I don't even remember what they were talking about. I wasn't really paying attention that closely. And he leans in and he's like, well, what do you think about it, young lady? You know, everybody's saying what they think. I'd love to hear what you think. I was like, oh, what do I think? Well, I don't remember what I said, if anything, but he was so sweet and like was fully engaged and let me spit out something and pretended to be interesting. And I was like, gosh, what a nice person to like, because I was fine. Like, I'm like one of those people that like, I really don't easily feel left out. Just because like my whole family dynamic is like all fucked up, that I don't really easily feel left out. A lot of times I can rationalize and be like, well, it's someone else's day. It's someone else's moment. And I was always that way. So like when in those situations, I don't feel like particularly left out. I'm just observing. And gosh, what an angel. So then fast forward like a year, I was at the premiere for a movie that I worked on called Arthur. And Arthur was the remake of, you know, the Dudley Moore movie in the 70s. It's a great classic comedy. It's kind of the last comedy that was like that before comedy changed as far as movies that became like National Lampoon's kind of vibe. But like Arthur before that was, comedies used to be different. They weren't so like boom, 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 boom joke. They were more like a story that was funny. And that was really like Arthur was one of those classics, and it was kind of the end of that era. Dudley Moore, the actor, he passed away shortly after. So it was just always a very iconic movie. So in like, I think maybe 2009 or 2010, they redid this film. And I was with Jim at the time. So Jim had asked around with a couple people if I could get a job, because he knew that, you know, my dream, my passion was filmmaking. So he asked around to get me a job as a PA on the movie Arthur. And I'm going to get back to the Arthur thing, but I'm going to finish the Robin Williams story. So fast forward, whatever, the movie, all this stuff, Russell Brand stuff, I'll talk about that after, because I know that there's a lot of people, obviously that's another weird hot topic right now. Fast forward to the premiere of Arthur. So I would have never been invited to the premiere just as like my position on the movie. I was just a PA. I wasn't going to be invited, but Jim wanted to make sure that I went. So he asked people so that I could end up going, because Jim is a very grotesque comic on stage, but as a person, he's a very, very, very sweet, very thoughtful person. So he got us to go to the Arthur premiere, and Robin Williams was there. And this was even better than the first time. We saw him there at the party, at the after party, and then Robin remembered me. He remembered me, and he was like, "Oh, young lady, look at you today. You look beautiful. You're all dressed up." And I was just like, oh, the fact that Robin remembered me. It was like, now this day at this Arthur premiere, I think I have another picture from here. This is from that night. I met Helen. Well, I worked with Helen Mirren on that movie, so she's in the movie. But then that night I got to get a picture with her, because I didn't get to ask her for any picture or anything when I was working with her. And you know me, I love the icons. This is why I love Linda Moulton Howe. This is why I love the icons, you know? So Helen Mirren was great. Amazing to work with. I love Helen dearly. And so working on Arthur, let me talk a little bit about that, because I don't know if any of you guys saw me on Matt Belinsky's podcast, but he had me on his podcast right when the Russell Brand allegations came out. And he was talking about, like, basically this is like a media sting operation on him. This is to silence him. This is because his opinions on conspiracies and stuff. And I don't think that Matt, when he had me on the podcast and brought up this topic, was expecting me to say like, oh, well, I actually worked with Russell Brand in like 2010 or whatever. And it was a horrible experience. I was like, oh yeah, he's definitely like, now, before I get into that, he might be a very changed person. We're all changed people. None of us are who we were in 2010. I'm not who I was in 2010. I'm sure he's not who he was in 2010, which was a horrible, disgusting person who I absolutely hated and had no respect for. And still to this day, I cannot watch his YouTube show. I get it that there's a lot of topics that he covers that I would be interested in, a lot of stuff, independent media that I care about, free speech stuff, but I can't. I just find him awful, you know, but I'm sure he's a different person. He seems different. But it wasn't anything. So I know that one of the allegations, I think I heard that one of the allegations might have come from the set of Arthur. I heard someone talk about that, and someone said, is this the guy with the long hair? Yeah, Russell Brand. So yeah, I don't know anything about that. I don't know anything that could have happened on that set of anything like that, of that nature. He was definitely cheating on Katy Perry on that set. And Katy Perry came on set one day too. He was a menace. He was horrible to work with because, and I think he was very like heavily in his addiction at that time. And I understand it's hard to judge someone who's sober now based on when they were in active addiction. But he would go inside his trailer and we would be filming and he wouldn't come out for like 5 or 6 hours. And the whole thing, we would go into overtime. They have to pay everyone overtime, making us stay sometimes 16 hours a day because we still need to get the shots, but Russell won't come out of his trailer. And sometimes even Helen Mirren literally went to his trailer one night. Helen went to his trailer and started banging on the door and was like, please, Russell, please. I'm an old woman. I want to go home. I want to go to sleep. Can you just please come out and shoot this scene? And I don't care what you do the rest of the night. So that was my experience at the time. But it does seem that he is a pretty changed person. Let me see. Who else was like a pretty cool person that I met? Which there was so many. I met so many amazing people. But legends. Let's see. Oh, same thing. How I met Robin Williams at the Comedy Cellar when I would go there and Jim was performing, and I would just wait until he was done with his performance. But one night, Jerry Seinfeld comes in, and I'm the only person sitting at this table. And I was in film school at the time, so I was on my laptop. And it was just me sitting at this table. There was nobody there. It was like a Wednesday night or something. It was just very dead. And Jerry Seinfeld comes and sits at the table. And I'm sitting there on my laptop, and I'm like, oh my God, it's fucking Jerry Seinfeld. And then again, the comedians flock to the table. Everyone's like trying to be the Mr. Funny guy, the funniest guy in the room. Jerry, oh, Jerry's here. And everyone's kind of like it was like instant. Everyone was at the table. Comedians were popping out of the woodwork. Everyone was like, Jerry, Jerry, Jerry. But this is awkward because I was like sitting there working on my computer. But then I feel like, is it weird if because I'm not going to just be like, oh, I'm closing my laptop because Jerry Seinfeld's sitting here, but I didn't know what to do. So I just kind of kept doing what I was doing, which was working on my computer. But then obviously I couldn't really work because I was so observing the bizarreness of what was happening. And then Jerry literally looks at me. Jerry Seinfeld looks at me in the eyes and he's like, so what, you're just going to keep that thing open? And I was like, nope, nope, closed. And then that was it. And then I said nothing else. Oh, it's just like, okay, wow, that was a very Seinfeld moment. I will close my laptop. Okay, so now for some more of the JK Ultra lore. Also, what I had talked about in that video that I posted about Jim on Joe Rogan, I also at the end of that had included that I used to have a podcast. So some of you guys know that I had like one of the, and especially if you follow me on Substack, you know the real deal about the podcast, which is not only did I have a podcast, I did a ritual under the blood moon for the success of this podcast because I was just a young girl who didn't know any better. And so was he trying to be funny or was he annoyed? I could not tell the difference. It was a little bit of both. I have no idea. But yeah, so in 2013, I started a podcast, which was like OG podcast time. And it was called Carmody Central Podcast because my last name's Carmody. And then I had mostly comedians on there. So what you might not know is I had Amy Schumer on there. She was one of my first episodes. And that was so cool because that was when she was filming Trainwreck. Like that's how long ago it was. Trainwreck had like not even come out yet. So it was like right before she really blew up. And I had Colin Quinn was my first episode. And then I had a lot of other people who are doing really well now in like comedy and stuff. There was a lot of people, but I ended up doing like over 100 episodes of that podcast. I had some other interesting people. Marcella Kroll, my friend who, we love her Oracle decks. I had my friend Lucas Handwerker, who's a mentalist. Now he's progressed a little bit more into healing, but he used to be a mentalist and it was incredible. I had so many cool episodes with different people, different photographers, it was kind of like a lifestyle podcast, and it actually did really well. So the night that I did that ritual under the blood moon for the success of the podcast, it wasn't like a crazy ritual. It was just, a little ceremony, not like I sacrificed anything. Blood moon was a type of eclipse. There was no blood. There was nothing like that involved. But I knew someone said, can we still listen? No, I took it all down because it's like 100 episodes and the episodes are between 1 hour and 3 hours each. So that's like up to like 400 hours of like, it's very cringe. because one thing that you don't realize until after you do it is how hard it is to have a recorded conversation. So it is hard to listen to because at the time I didn't really know better to interrupt guests and stuff. And you know how annoying that is when like the host is interrupting the guests. It's so cringe. It's so cringe. Also, another funny thing from around that time. Oh, so I did the ritual under the blood moon. This is, I think I remember the day. I think it was like April 15th or something, 2013 or 2014 or something like that. And I went outside. Oh, so I lived in an apartment building. I didn't really have my own outdoor space. I lived across the street from an Office Max. So there was a big parking lot, and this was in Hollywood. And so I go to the parking lot across the street to watch the eclipse because it's about to be a full eclipse and it was going to turn red during that time. So I brought like a white crystal and a black crystal. And I went outside and walked across the street and went to the parking lot. Instantly, the black crystal flies out of my hand and disappears. And then I'm looking for it in the bush. I'm trying to find it, can't find the crystal anywhere. Then a homeless guy comes up to me as this blood moon is about to start. And he says, this was actually the first time I ever heard this. I had never heard this conspiracy or belief at the time. Random homeless guy came up to me and was like, you know, that's a satellite, right? I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, the moon is not a real moon. It's a satellite. And I'm like, oh, okay, bud. Little did I know the universe was always giving me this little things. So then the crazy moon happens. I just had the intentions that my podcast would do well. And I also posted my biggest episode that day. And that episode was a character that Jim does, which is called Chipperson. Chip ended up having his own podcast. This side character that Jim does ended up having its own podcast. It ended up being a phenomenon of its own. I was the first person to interview this fake character, and I interviewed him as a real person as this character. So it wasn't only the ritual. It was also because Jim did this character. It was the first time someone had done something with this character that his fans loved. And then Jim also had talked about it on the radio that day. So it wasn't only the blood moon. It was the timing of it all, because I also had launched it on that day. So then it started getting a little weird. Things just felt creepy. So I started walking and I was like, oh, I'm going to go walk to Walgreens really quick, even though it's like midnight. And then some other guy comes up to me and he's like, oh, you're famous. I was like, no, I'm not. He's like, Pamela. Like, creepy. And then he kept calling me Pamela and trying to talk to me about the TV show that I was on. And I was like, okay, whoa. I did something. I broke a veil. Something's weird. The people who are close to the veil are going crazy on me. So then I go to Walgreens and my phone starts ringing, and then it's my friend Jen. And she's like, dude, my friend just called me and said that you're in like the top like podcasts on iTunes right now. She's like, check on your phone, go check it out. And then I went all the way up. I think I was in like, I have a screenshot somewhere. It was like Joe Rogan, me, and then Adam Carolla, the screenshot of like where I ranked that day. I then, came down. But that's also part of the reason, I think, another reason why I'm comfortable doing this stuff, even though my first TikToks and stuff did well, it wasn't like I didn't have all of this background in writing and then over 100 episodes of a podcast and all of this stuff, My podcast was also very popular in this town in the UK called Hartford, but with an E, Hartford, in the UK. For some reason, I had a crazy amount of downloads in this town. I don't know why. I'd never been there. I would love to go there and visit. So also around that same time, I had been venturing a little bit into YouTube. This was actually the same YouTube channel. This is my same original YouTube channel. I just changed the name from Comedy Central Podcast to JK Ultra. And I actually had, which is private on this, a video that went viral on YouTube in like 2014. Viral, like 100,000 views. And this was when YouTube still allowed thumbs down. The amount of thumbs down that I had, like, I remember it was like over 500. It was over 500 thumbs down. It was so many. And the comments were so vicious. Oh, Ian coming with the UK facts. Hartford is the county town of Hertfordshire, England. Well, when I come visit, I want to go check it out. Even though it's probably a very different audience for me now, you know? I don't know what it was about what happened with my podcast that it was, yeah, the population is only 26,000. How was I getting such crazy downloads in this town? I don't know. So I was doing also videos on YouTube, and what I was doing is I was doing a series called like Why I Don't Do Drugs Anymore, and I was telling personal stories about when I used to do drugs when I was younger. And I told the story about when I did Salvia. Now, I don't suggest anyone does Salvia because that is a nightmare. It's a terrible, terrible feeling. But I talked about my experience, and it got such an extreme reaction out of people. Some people were like, this is identical to my Salvia experience. This is 100%. I've never seen anyone describe it so accurately. And then other comments. Okay, now I'm gonna tell you why. It's because of misogyny, okay? But stick with me. It's not out of just being super woke or something. I had a raging camel toe in this video, okay? That was the problem, is I was wearing a little like American Apparel outfit, and you know, those American Apparel outfits would sometimes be major camel toe, and I was a young gal, you know? So that was the majority of, someone said make the video public again. It was so it got such an extreme reaction. Some people don't notice. Some people watch the video and don't notice and don't care. Some people lose their freaking minds. Like there was guys not losing their minds in a good way, losing their minds like death threats. Then there was so many people who were like, I'm going to kill this whore. I am like, and it was insane. One of them I actually did report to the FBI because this guy, it became so extreme that this guy was over fucking me having camel toe in a video. And that was not what it was about, you know, like it was so like way too much. I did other videos too. That was the one that had done the best. And the worst. It done the best and the worst, actually. I'm sure if I scroll down to like my old YouTube in my like YouTube studio and I go back to all of my like other stuff that is even like private, it tells you the percentage of like likes to dislikes for every video. Oh, it's definitely way below 50% on that, the likes to dislikes. But it's crazy stuff like that. And it reminds me of that movie Assassination Nation, which I love, where like the whole town literally wants to kill a teenage girl because they saw naked pictures of her, that like they would rather kill her than like accept themselves. I don't know. Salvia was crazy. The room turned into a hand and picked you up and tried to take you to the afterlife. Whoa. But the story of it, I will actually probably, maybe I'll do another video telling my Salvia story. Some of the other ones that I had told on there was that was pretty popular. Not as popular was the time that my mom found ecstasy in my purse and then tricked me into thinking that she took it so that I would admit what it was. So like my mom, and this is when I was like 18 years old. These are like all old stories. This is all, like 10 years ago that I was posting these on YouTube, and I was talking about stories from like 8 years before that. But when I was like a teenager, my mom found ecstasy in my purse. So instead of confronting me, my mom decided to start acting weird. So my mom came in and was like, oh. My mom was like getting the Oscar that night. She came in and she looked at herself in the mirror and she was like, ugh. And I was like, Mom, what the fuck is wrong with you? She's like, oh, I ate a piece of candy out of your purse. I don't know, I feel funny. And my mom used to work nights. This is how I got away with so much debauchery, because I had a single mom, and my mom, she worked in Rite Aid overnight in a 24-hour Rite Aid. So my mom would leave at like 3 p.m. to go to work, and she wouldn't come back until like 7 o'clock in the morning the next day. So I wouldn't even get out of school until after 3 o'clock. So basically I was a menace, free bird, to do whatever I wanted. And my mom didn't have a car, so she could like pretty much never find me if she even wanted to. So, and there wasn't cell phones back then like that. So my one friend had a cell phone, but we weren't allowed to use it because we had to pay for minutes. It was just his mom needed him to call her. That was it. But like, so we would go out, we wouldn't check in until we came back to someone's house somewhere, and someone's parents were like, oh, your mom was calling, your mom's looking for you, call your parents, So I used to get away with debauchery. And my mom's like, I just feel a little funny, I just gotta go to work. And I'm like, Ma, please don't lie to me. Did you really take it? And then she's like, yeah, why? I just gotta get to work, I just don't feel good. And I'm like, no, Ma, please don't go to work. If you took it, don't go to work. And she's like, why? What is it? Is it LSD? I'm like, no, Ma, it's ecstasy. And she's like, ecstasy? Like, of everything she ever heard on Dateline, she starts freaking out, screaming. She's like, I'm going to work and I'm giving this to the pharmacist. And I'm like, Ma, I just told you what it was. Why are you going to bring illegal drugs into your job to give to a pharmacist? What is wrong with you? Whatever. Me and my mom are arguing about it. I got in trouble. But these were like the type of things I had posted back in the day on YouTube. But these videos are all private now. Let's see. What else? More JK Ultra lore or interesting stuff. Oh, by the way, guys, I am going to be doing ayahuasca again. I am going to be doing ayahuasca again. I'm not quite sure of the dates yet, but it is approaching. It is upon us. I was going to do a video, and I probably still will, about 6 months after ayahuasca and kind of what that process of like the highs immediately after, of like afterward, I was like ready to come on here and bear all. I was like an open book. All of that. I was healed. I didn't even have road rage. You could cut me off. Who cares? I was living in peace and harmony. And then I started to kind of get those feeling of those annoyances and stuff creeping in again, but that was okay. Then I started to get super stressed, and I started to feel like kind of a lot of the numbness that had grown in me over the years towards anxiety or towards depression or towards any of these things. I had a numbness towards it because ever since I was young, I kind of was always like, no, Anxiety, what's that? I'm having trouble breathing. That's weird. Anyway, moving along, so that was kind of how I had always operated ever since I was a kid. So then after the ayahuasca really did like so much healing on my body, and like I told you guys, on kind of like that cellular level, on kind of like that fascia, body keeps the score level, they in my muscles had like removed so much of like the stored trauma, the stuff that you work on with like the somatic exercises and stuff. Then I actually became super overwhelmed after the like, because I would say it was about 8 to 9 weeks that I stayed in that very high state. And then I started to drop really hard and I started to get really overwhelmed. And as you guys probably know, I started posting less. And I was just feeling very hermited and isolated and overwhelmed and anxious. And it was like, but everything's fine. Everything's better than it's always been. Like, I'm perfectly fine. I have nothing to feel anxious about. Why am I feeling so anxious? And that kind of, got me back to then smoking again, because then I was like, oh, I have so much nerves, but I have a lot of obligations, a lot of responsibilities to still do and come up with, and being able to keep myself motivated. And because, as you guys know, I've said in other things before, but since we're in the JK Ultra lore, as some of you know, I used to run a bunch of weed shops, like marijuana shops. So probably like 4 or 5 different shops over the course of a couple of years. So I was very heavy in the marijuana industry for a long time too. So every day at work, and these were very long days because it's not like a regulated industry or anything. So you're working like over 12 hours a day with endless amounts of weed. So like, basically I'm like someone who like, that was so ingrained in my productivity that as the ayahuasca faded and became further, and the annoyances of life and the anxiety of life and these things and the pressure of kind of going to Vegas and giving the lecture and things like that and all this different stuff, I was like, I need to fucking smoke. So I'm still smoking since I started again. I had kind of like started and then took a break. And then during that break, I was just kind of like, you know what? I'm just going to do this for a little bit. In a way that works for me to still be productive. Is it perfect? No, but that's what I've been honest about also when I did that video about the smoking and stuff. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I'm a perfect person or ever was a perfect person. So, yeah. But then, so I was talking to a couple people who were in my Rhythmia ceremony with me. And one of the guys had reached out, oddly enough, like 3 people from my Rhythmia ceremony had all reached out in like within 24 hours of each other. And then I had just seen that like a couple days before that another one of the people from my Rhythmia ceremony posted that she was back at Rhythmia doing the ayahuasca again, and that she had brought her adult children. So first time she had come with her husband, second time she came with her adult children, her daughter and her son, who, I don't know, maybe are in their 20s or whatever. And so interesting enough, I talked to one of the guys from my ayahuasca ceremony, and he says that one of his friends who went to Rhythmia just went back the second time and had a great experience. So he's considering going back a second time. And, I had kind of been saying like, I don't want to kind of just run back to it because things had gotten a little bit hermity and hard and I started feeling anxiety. I don't want to just run back to plant medicine. I was like, no, I'm going to sit with this and I'm going to let Mother Aya call me when it's time. And so then I was talking to one of my friends from the ceremony, and he said he's about to start considering going back a second time. And I was like, hey, look, I am going to leave it up to the universe, just like I did the first time. Because as you guys know, with my first time, the way that I ended up doing the ayahuasca was a complete miracle, being in the right place at the right time, everything falling perfectly into place for me to be gifted that experience at Rhythmia, and then to be able to have that experience. That was the universe. That was magic. That was beyond my control. So that's what I told him. I was like, well, you know what? I'm going to let the universe handle it just like the universe handled it the first time. I kid you guys not. I kid you guys not. Less than 24 hours. This was in the afternoon. Next morning when I woke up, I had a message from Soltera, the other biggest ayahuasca retreat. You know, Rhythmia and Soltera are kind of the two most well-known retreats. And it's not all official yet. I haven't signed anything. I shouldn't even be talking about it all yet. But they have offered me the same experience to go and experience their facility and their ceremony and to share my experience. So I'm like, oh my God, the second that I said I would be open to a second time, because up until now, up until that conversation with that guy, I had been only saying, I don't know about a second time. I want to sit with these feelings. I'm going to sit with this. I'm still working on it. I'm still integrating. I need time. I don't know what is the future for me with that. The moment that I said, you know what? I'm open to it, but I'm going to let the universe handle it. 24 hours later, the universe said, okay, here you go. So I talked to my friend who has sat with ayahuasca many times, and she said, she was like, oh, when I first did it, she called me several times in a row. So she said actually her first couple years, she had done several ceremonies as well, that sometimes, and you know, I am a little nervous. And I think part of the reason why I was nervous to do it a second time, especially when I was leaving Rhythmia, like when I said when I was leaving Rhythmia, probably in the videos about it, I was kind of like, yeah, I don't know if I'll ever do it again. I'm open, but I don't know if I would. I do feel that part of me is because I was scared to go deeper, because I went really deep and that was really intense and that was a lot. But I know that there was a part of me that was also afraid of going deeper than what I went, because we went into like self-worth, my mom, my dad, you know, that was like a big part of it. Of my whole ceremony over those days. There was also the healing with my ex, not Jim, my most recent ex, the one that is in, you know, my Substack, the story about like getting possessed and all of that. That was one of the things that had healed and come to terms with in the ceremony, but we didn't really get into, we did also too, like you guys remember, like I said, in that first night of the ayahuasca ceremony, she did a lot of work on my body because of those drugs that I did when I was younger. But now I feel like it's going to go a lot deeper for this second time. So I am nervous, but at the same time, I don't want to let fear of discomfort prevent me from healing more, from being truer to myself, fuller to myself. You know, I feel the, you know, my heart was so open after, and I feel myself, you know, now more aware of those things that are not aligned. Like when I'm not aligned, when I'm kind of in my shit talking or being kind of, you know, like anyone else, everyone wants to act like they're perfect, you know, but healed, everybody does the right thing, says the right thing. No, I talk shit. I get annoyed. I feel slighted. I feel sometimes like, I don't usually take things personal because, like I said, it's just kind of not my personality to take everything personal. But all of these things happen. I have feelings of all different things, you know. So now, since I've sat with Mother Aya once, those things now, I can see them more and they feel even more not aligned. And of course, I'm not going to be perfect and be like always in my 100% compassionate and loving state. I don't even know if that's the type of life I want to live, you know? For that, you just stay on the other side and stay a soul, a higher self or something, you know? But, yeah, but at the same time, these things, that's what makes it even sicker. Let's see. for our last moments, is there any interesting other lore? Oh yeah, one little fun fact. For those of you guys who know House Inhabit, my friend Jessica Reed Krause, who I love. If you don't, like, guys, she is the #1 independent journalist in the world. Like, once again, another person that I love, that they are going to speak their truth. They're going to cover the stories that they want. They're going to take the angles that they want. They're going to post it, even if people are going to be mad or hate it. I love it. Like, honestly, she's so inspiring. I was already a fan of hers. And then I met her at the Harvey Weinstein trial on the first day. So at like 6 o'clock in the morning when she came up, I was like, oh, hey, girl, I follow you since you covered the Ghislaine Maxwell trial. And then we've been friends ever since then, which has just been such a rewarding friendship too, because honestly, Jess is an icon. Like, she really is one of these people who proves you can be an independent journalist. You can make a living being honest. You don't need to play into the media. She gets better access than the media does. She covers stories before the media does. Like, literally, just to like tell you guys a few, like, remember when the whole submarine stupid shit was happening with the billionaires that were like in a submarine? She had a leaked email from James Cameron days before of James Cameron saying, someone emailed with James Cameron, screenshotted it, somehow went down the chain, and it got to House Inhabit's Instagram. And she posted this email of James Cameron saying that, oh, those people died, imploded days ago. There's no way that they're still alive, because, you know, as you go, James Cameron is the only person who's really been down there, who's explored it like that. And he was like, oh, those billionaires have been dead for like 4 days. Why are they dragging this out on the news? And then the next day, all the news broke the story. The amount of times that I have seen Jess break the story, someone said, Jess who? House Inhabit. House Inhabit on Substack, and she's like literally like the #1 person on Substack. This is actually how I ended up meeting the people from Substack. And then, you know, they helped me set up my Substack because I had too much stuff going on. And yeah, so she's just amazing. She's incredible. It's also funny that when she did the thing with Taryn Manning, this is another weird JK Ultra lore, which of course I'm not going to get into all the details, but I know Taryn from like over 10 years ago, like 12 years ago when I first moved to LA. I have this very weird history with her because my old roommate and short time friend is a very dark figure of Taryn's life. So I've really seen like a behind the scenes thing. And sometimes like over the years, Taryn has posted things that might seem paranoid, might seem a little crazy to people, but like, I swear, as someone who actually knows like some of the backstory, she was being like legit in some of those things. Like, what she was saying was not, it wasn't coming across because people don't know all the details. And so that was like a crazy colliding of my worlds, because my whole like past life when I first moved to LA, and then my newer friend just since the Harvey trial, House Inhabit, was then doing a whole feature on Taryn. And then we all went out together to watch the Crossroads, the Britney Spears movie Reuniting together. And then, so it was crazy. It was the first time me and Taryn had been reunited in like 10 years. It was like this cool thing. We ended up going to karaoke. I didn't do karaoke. Taryn did. She killed it, but she's like literally a professional singer. So obviously she freaking killed it. But it was just so crazy. It was like my worlds have been colliding so much lately. Like, even I started off talking about Jim and Nikki, Jim, my ex-boyfriend, and his wife, Nikki. And then even crazy too, that ends up crossing over to like them doing the first podcast that they did out being public relationship, was Whitney Cummings. And it's just kind of all mixed up in my weird web that seems to be all coming together of all these different people from different parts of my life. and things like that. So, yeah. So guys, thank you for being here for this little, JK Ultra lore. Oh yes, Bashar also received a award. It was a gift of an award the same day that I did at the same ceremony. It was so great. So, okay, so basically this was our little filling in some interesting things. Oh, I didn't show you all my pictures. Did I show them all? Oh my God. Before we go, me with Bill Cosby. I'm telling you guys, I have a very weird life. The more that follow the Substack, because the Substack tells you more about my personal life. I have a very crazy life. This is me and Bill Cosby. Here's me and Joan Rivers. Helen Mirren again, yes. Betty White, guys. This is the most, like, pinnacle. Hello, Betty White. You think I did it with Helen, but then I did it with Joan, but then I did it with Betty. Kept outdoing myself with that. And as you can see, these pictures were very, very, very long time ago. Oh, here's me and Kevin Smith. I don't know why I looked so old. I was only 21 years old here. I don't know why. Actually, I do know why. I was unhealed, and it's so true. When you go through your healing journey, that's why a lot of times, sometimes spiritual people that you like, they're a lot younger than you think, and then you see an old picture of them and you're like, holy crap, did you reverse age? Not that I look super young now, I just looked super old then. What is this? Oh, so this is, if you guys see here, this was at a UFC event. I was in the first row. Like, you can see between that guy, the guy who's standing. So the guy down is Anderson Silva. This is when he lost the, someone said you were super thin. I know, I was 20 years old. It was just age. It was just age of being so dang young. I was always very skinny my whole life. But it's crazy that, like, once you hit 30, your hips and your everything really does expand a little bit. I'm like, this is wild. This is wild. So I'm still slim, you know? It's just life. Because when I look back, I see these girls on Instagram and they're so skinny. I'm like, are they so skinny or are they just 20 years old? So as you see here, this was at a UFC. I was in the front row of this UFC, and you could see between Anderson Silva had just lost his belt and his leg is like broken. He got kicked down, broke his leg by this guy. What's this guy's name? Chris, I don't know, Chris something. I can't think of what something. So I was in the first row, so you can see in between his legs, and then you see it's like zoomed in the bottom photo. That's like literally me on the UFC, in the front row of a UFC thing, and this is like a screenshot from TV where you can see me, and sitting right behind me was Maynard James Keenan, the lead singer of Tool, and Tool is one of my favorite bands. But I was already drunk by the time that I had realized, and that was so many years ago. If you look up that fight I think was in like 2015. You know, at the time I was like drinking and stuff. And I was so, like, because I was drunk, I was too embarrassed to say hi to Maynard, but I wanted to so bad. So I just thought about it and didn't turn around and say anything to him. And I majorly regret not just turning around and saying, like, Maynard, I fucking love you. Because I really do. I really do. I really think that Maynard is, a lot of people think Kanye West is a genius and stuff. Like, I don't understand how people believe Kanye West is a genius, but Maynard is actually a genius. He's actually one of the most magical, amazing musicians ever. So that was a little bit of a regret that I didn't turn around and say anything. He's like, don't talk to me about Tool, but I have to. Oh my God, Maynard James Keenan. Exactly. I love him so much. And that is a regret. I got to meet a lot of cool people. You know, another person who I really loved was Sean Paul. I'm all over, like I said. You know, my favorite movies are Clockwork Orange and Mrs. Doubtfire. I'm dynamic. I'm complex. You know, hate politics, but love crazy political commentators that are honest. You know, like I'm a paradox. And that's what actually, you guys, I know that the whole world is all about everyone pretending to be perfect and the virtue signaling, and everyone thinks they're morally superior to everyone else, and everyone acts like they never did anything bad, and if they have a bad thought, they just project it onto people. But at the end of the day, from the storytelling perspective, and we know storytelling mimics life, we know art mimics life, and as you guys know, you know my history with like film school and my writing history and all of these things, and the studying of writing and storytelling that I've done for years. The number one thing that makes a realistic character, and this is coming from like the old books, you know, this is not like modern stuff. This is in like old character books for storytelling. The number one thing that makes a character lovable, interesting, realistic is paradox. It's not, this is why it's very hard to connect with movies right now. It's very hard to connect with a lot of TV shows are easier because the character has more ups and downs. The character has more hardship. The character makes more mistakes because it's a long telling story of character development. But movies, it's getting very difficult to connect with characters, I find, because I find that these characters are so one-dimensional. If they have someone, they're going to diversify it. They have a woman, or they have people of different ethnicities. They don't even diversify the person. The person is so one-dimensional. So it's like they've added new characters, but they've added these characters one-dimensionally. A woman only cares about woman stuff. If it's like a show, it's like a Black queer woman, and all she cares about is political issues and has no basis of anything beyond that, which is not real life. And they say what makes a great character, and that's because it mimics life, because people that we're drawn to have complexity. We have people who want connection so badly but push everyone away. We have people who want attention so badly, put themselves out there, but then they're afraid to be honest about who they truly are. That is what makes people interesting. You have someone that fights really strong for an issue, then to only find out that maybe they have some weird connection to that issue that we didn't think. You know, this is what makes people interesting. So that is still what I love in people, you know, is that paradox, because no one is one-dimensional. If people are portraying themselves as one-dimensional, those are the people who end up being in the Me Too movement, right? The people who portray themselves as one-dimensional are the ones who end up getting called out for being fake people, because they're playing a fake character that is not perfect. And it causes, when you play a fake character in your life, it actually causes you to do deceptive things when people aren't around. So the best thing you could do is be honest and be yourself, even if it's contradictory, you know, to other things that you feel and believe. You just saw Tool last night in Denver? Oh, I'm so jealous. Okay, let's see. Was that it of my lore that I had written down? Some, we can always talk more. I don't know if you guys know that I used to be a American Apparel model. I used to do modeling and stuff back in the day. I have a very interesting work life. I should do a whole episode on all these different past jobs that I've had. The American